Is the Shadowman still alive in Black Ops 6 Zombies? And is it him that is giving Panos orders? Has he been contacted by him from within the Dark Aether? And is he planning to absorb the Dark Aether essence of the original 4 characters, Richtofen, Takeo, Nikolai and Dempsey, and bring back the old multiverse? This shouldn't even be a question because his fate at the end of Black Ops 4 Zombies, for most people, was in contention. Some people thought he died when the summoning key was destroyed, his soul was destroyed along with it. Other people thought, including me, that his soul, just like everything else, was banished to the Dark Aether. But the true fate of the Shadowman compared to any of our other Zombies characters, Dr. Monty, the Transit Crew, Misty, Malton, Stuhlinger, Russman, everything that was a part of the multiverse prior to Black Ops 4 was banished to the Dark Aether. But the Shadowman, during that time, was inside of the summoning key. And so when we saw Nikolai destroy it, did that mean his soul within inside of it was destroyed as well? Or, like I said, did it mean his soul was just banished to the Dark Aether along with everything else? And also remembering, it wasn't only the Shadowman who was inside of the summoning key, it was also the souls of Dempsey and Takeo. Whatever happened to the Shadowman also happened to those characters, which we'll get onto later. But the reason I'm bringing all of this up is because in Black Ops 6 Zombies, Dr. Panos is acting as someone's agent. In Liberty Falls, he became trapped in a Dark Aether pocket dimension in the church, and whilst he was in here, he was contacted by a shadowy benefactor, and this mysterious person promised Panos power, forbidden knowledge, a reckoning of his enemies, and most importantly, he would help him to escape the Dark Aether. But in return, this shadow benefactor wanted him to find his friends. But the big question that everybody's been asking is, who is this? And just some of the names that have been put across are the Shadowman, Samantha, Richtofen, even Dr. Monty, and while going through everything that we have, I believe there is a very high chance the Shadowman is still alive, or at least some remnant of him. Going back to Liberty Falls when Panos was still trapped in the Dark Aether, we could hear him talking to this mysterious figure in the Dark Aether, which may give us hints as to who it is.
Yes, I understand how the SDG works. I built the damn thing. Okay, fair enough. We built it.
So this person Panos is talking to helped him build the SDG, which is a device that would help him to escape the Dark Aether. That tells us whoever this is, he is smart, he knows about machines, and adding onto that, listen to this.
You know, part of me wants to stay. It's quite, trippy here. Okay, calm down. I guess you and I had very different experiences at university.
Whoever Panos is talking to went to university, which tells us they are, or at one time, had to have been human. So it can't be a Dark Aether elder god like Cortifex, for example, even though he's dead right now, or is supposed to be unless Trot retcon the story. But also, even though they're trapped in the Dark Aether now, at one time they had to have been based in reality, right, on Earth. Otherwise, how could they have gone to university if they've been trapped in the Dark Aether for their entire existence? Here's another quote from Panos.
No, I don't hate him. I don't think you do either. But if everything you told me is true, I never should have taken this job.
So he says to this person he's talking to in the Dark Aether, no, I don't hate him, but I don't think you do either. But if everything you've told me about him is true, I never should have taken this job. That for me rules out he was not talking to Richtofen, and our latest Zombies map Shattered Veil confirms that anyway. Richtofen was trapped in the liminal space. He wasn't teleported away to the Dark Aether by Sam as we originally thought. And it also seems like in this quote, he's actually talking about Richtofen. When Panos says, no, I don't hate him, and I don't think you do either, but I shouldn't have taken the job. We know Panos worked for Richtofen, so we can assume he's talking about him. But what this also tells us is whoever this mysterious person in the Dark Aether is, hates Richtofen. For one reason or another, they hate him. Richtofen has done something to them, which brings us closer to finding out who they could be. Moving on though, because there's more quotes.
I'm worried about the director. I saw him when this started, and his comms went dark.
Well, if I'm learning anything, it's that just because you're missing doesn't mean you're dead. Isn't that so?
Who are you talking to?
It is just a rhetorical question, that's all.
When Blanchard and Panos were talking in Liberty Falls, Blanchard said he's worried about Richtofen because he hadn't seen him since the zombie outbreak. And Panos replied, well, if I'm learning anything, it's that just because you're missing doesn't mean you're dead. Now, we know Richtofen wasn't dead, but that would also insinuate whoever this mysterious person he's talking to in the Dark Aether is has been missing, and perhaps assumed dead, maybe by us? Is it a character that we thought died but hadn't? So there's a lot to go off there. The Shadow Benefactor is within the Dark Aether. They went to university, they helped Panos to construct the SDG, which means they had knowledge of such stuff, and they don't like Richtofen. They have some kind of history with him. We can rule out this being Richtofen. One of the other people it could have been that was theorized was Samantha. Since the last time we saw her, she was banished to the Dark Aether, so she's still trapped there. However, in a later radio from Panos, after the SDG is activated and he escapes the Dark Aether, switching positions with us, the Special Forces unit we play as in that map, he says this.
He came to me again, my friend, my benefactor, my salvation. Time is strange in this place. A moment ago, I was in the church. A moment ago, he was here with me. In another moment, who knows? Like the director, he came with promises, power, forbidden knowledge, a reckoning for my enemies. But unlike the director, his mastery of the Dark Aether is real. And what's more, he promised me a way out. When I return to the world, I will be his agent. The future he speaks of, the one we will fashion together. I can hardly wait. In only a moment, we begin.
That radio tells us it's not Samantha either, because Panos says he, Samantha of course, would be she, so it's not her either. Everything points towards, unless Trark are doing this intentionally, they might want us to think this, but in the end are going to do a big reveal saying, look, you were wrong even though we misdirected you. It was a totally different character, but the Shadowman, being the one talking to Panos in the Dark Aether, has to be the main suspect. And if you just listen to some of the words that are used when Panos says, he came to me again, my friend, my benefactor, my salvation. There is really only one character in our COD Zombie storyline that's ever used that word, and that's the Shadowman.
Do you not see the power Dr. Monty holds over you? Do you not see you're being deceived? I can help you! Only through me can you find salvation!
Panos also says about him, like Richtofen, he came to me with promises, power, forbidden knowledge, a reckoning of my enemies, but unlike Richtofen, his mastery of the Dark Aether is real. When I return to the world, I will be his agent. In the old COD Zombies storyline, what I mean by that is before the destruction of the multiverse, prior to Black Ops 4, the Shadowman had many agents, Richtofen himself being his most prominent. And actually, the Shadowman was an agent of the Apothicons.
I knew a bloke, and I'm talking way back. He was the sweetest, most charming individual you could ever wish to meet. He was funny too. We used to have such a good old laugh together. Honestly, my sides hurt thinking about it. He was my friend. He was my best friend. And then the Apothicons got hold of him. Since then, he's pretty much acted as their agent, zipping around the galaxy.
The Shadowman, being the master manipulator that he was, tricked people, giving them false promises, turning them into his agents. Like I said, one of his agents was Ultimus Richtofen, another one was the Warden in Mob of the Dead and Blood of the Dead, when he sacrificed himself to transform the island into the hell that it was. And now in Black Ops 6, Panos is acting as this person's agent, doing his work for him, and in return he's been promised power. But he also tells us whoever this person is, he is a master of the Dark Aether. He has the ability to grant power. He has forbidden knowledge. He is not just a regular being within the Dark Aether. Unless he's lying to Panos, he has some sort of superiority. How high up he would be to the rank of an elder god, you wouldn't think so, otherwise why would he need Panos to do his work for him? So it sounds like he's lower down in the chain, more like he's working in the shadows in the Dark Aether, trying to conjure something up. He has powers, or maybe at one time did, but isn't the most powerful entity within there. But he spoke to Panos of a different future, which I guess is the main question. Okay, there's this person in the Dark Aether manipulating Panos. He's got him to act as his agent. He's escaped, travelled to Janus Towers, and has caused a system meltdown. But why? What is the purpose of all of this? What is this Shadow Benefactor trying to achieve? And could this tie into what we know about the Black Ops 7 Zombies storyline? Just in case you weren't aware, BO7 is the next game coming out this year. That's probably not what it's going to be called. The name of it's irrelevant, but it's going to be another Zombies game from Treyarch. And according to the leaks for the storyline, take this with a massive grain of salt. I don't know whether this is true or not, but we've been told the zombie story for this year's game will evolve around a new enemy character who wants to absorb the Dark Aether essence of the original 4 characters, who are Richtofen, Tycho, Nikolai and Dempsey, and bring back the old multiverse. Could this new enemy character be the person Panos is talking to, and could that be his goal? That only solidifies for me that this is the Shadowman, or at least a fragment of him. Who would want to bring back the old multiverse? What reason would they want to do that? It would have to be someone that lived through it. Who would be the Shadowman and Dr. Monty? I mean, there is Victus, Misty, Malton, Stuhlinger and Russman, but I can't see them wanting to do something like this. I mean, maybe. Stuhlinger was someone who knew Richtofen. He was also very smart like this person is. However, he wasn't a master of the Dark Aether, but who knows, after all of this time of being trapped in there, he could have spent that time mastering it, and it's not far-fetched to say he could hate Richtofen after the Tag der Toten ending, him being banished to the Dark Aether, thinking he had been abandoned by him. You could definitely see Treyarch doing something like that with the storyline, so I wouldn't rule that out, but for me the most likely options are Dr. Monty and the Shadowman. But when you listen to some of the words that are used, salvation, agent, these are phrases that link back to the Shadowman. There are some discrepancies. We know this person in the Dark Aether went to university. However, as far as we're aware, the Shadowman didn't. At least we've never been told that in the storyline anyway. If you kind of break the fourth wall for a second here, based off the Treyarch leaked documents, it is possible that the Shadowman is based off a real life person called Edward Kelly, but that's not confirmed in the actual zombie storyline. That may be a person Treyarch based the Shadowman off. It's the same with Dr. Monty and John D, but whether or not that's canonically a part of the storyline, we're never told, so I can't say for sure. But Dr. Monty, for example, well, how do you get the title Doctor? Typically, it requires you completing a degree and going to university. So unless Dr. Monty is pretending to be a real doctor,
He's not even a real doctor. I would know.
There may have been some point in time where he went to university to get that title. As for the Shadowman, well, we never actually find out his real name. He is only ever referred to as the Shadowman, which of course is just a title for him. Unlike Monty, we don't have a name for the Shadowman. It could be that he was also a doctor, which then would confirm he probably went to university. And I mean, if you just take a look at both of those characters, the way they speak, they sound pretty smart. Just going back to Liberty Falls and listening to a few more things from Panos.
Fine, I won't tell them. But a deal is a deal. I'll find your friends. If I ever get out of here.
He says when talking to the shadow figure in the Dark Aether, fine, I won't tell them, but a deal is a deal. I will find your friends. And he also says, if this works, I'll keep my promise to you.
Hold it together just a little longer. If this works, I will keep my promise to you.
Treyarch had to have known what they're doing here, because we have Panos making a promise to this person in the Dark Aether. And well, if you're into the zombie storyline, you would have heard this quote from way back when in Black Ops 3 and 4 a lot.
You do know that Richtofen is a friend of mine. I say friend, but really he's so much more than that. At one point, I almost considered him my apprentice. I mean, he did stab my reporter friend and steal the summoning key. But at one point he did everything I told him to. I keep hoping he'll remember the promise he made to me so long ago.
In Revelations, the Shadowman said when talking about Richtofen, at one point he did everything I told him to. I keep hoping he'll remember the promise he made to me. And now we have Panos, who has made a promise to this person in the Dark Aether. So you can see why the Shadowman's the number one suspect. But there's more. In Modern Warfare 3 Zombies, which takes place in the future, many years after Black Ops 6, we heard about someone or some people called the Shadowsmiths. When we killed the entity at the end of that game, who was a reflection of Aether in the Dark Aether, the very last thing the entity said was this. And then 3 months later, whilst in Liberty Falls, Aether walks past this mirror, a Shadowsmith appears, and we know this is a Shadowsmith because a couple more minutes later, his hand reaches through this mirror and grabs Aether. The exact thing that we were told would happen by the entity of the Shadowsmiths taking her happened. So this right here is a Shadowsmith. Now, obviously you're all going to be saying, hang on, that looks exactly like the Shadowman. The hat is a dead giveaway, and you're right, when you line the models up side by side, they don't exactly match. That doesn't necessarily have to be looked at too closely, but the entity said to Aether, he is searching for you, and the Shadowsmiths will take you, which would suggest the Shadowsmiths are working for he, whoever he is. And if they're working for the Shadowman, if they've taken Aether for him because he was searching for her, is that where they got their name from? The Shadowman was called the Shadowman because he worked in the shadows. Did the Shadowsmiths get their name because they worked for the Shadowman? I don't know, there's so much here, but because of the ending of Black Ops 4, unlike all of the other characters, the Shadowman's fate was up in air. I always believed he was banished to the Dark Aether. You see the summoning key get destroyed, it shatters into pieces, but there's nothing to say when the multiverse was gone. Just like everything else, his soul wouldn't have been banished to the Dark Aether, because that's a possibility. Souls can survive on their own within there. Because revelations didn't happen as a part of the broken cycle, where in that map the Shadowman escaped the summoning key, the broken cycle happens after Zetsubo Noshima, but before Garrod Kurovi. So within the key during this time are the Shadowman and the souls of Dempsey and Takeo. It's extremely possible he was banished to the Dark Aether, giving you a bunch of theories of what could have happened after that then. 1, he died sometime after being banished there. 2, just like the Keepers and the Apothecans, as has been suggested, he merged with Dr. Monty, because Monty would have been in there as well. The only difference is Monty would have had his physical form, whereas the Shadowman wouldn't. Or 3, the Shadowman was banished to the Dark Aether in the 60s or the 70s, whatever the year was, and ever since then has been waiting in the shadows, trying to manipulate people on the outside world in order to restore the old multiverse and return himself back to his former glory. But because we know the Dark Aether changes you over time, even though the Shadowman already had been corrupted by the Dark Aether, there was his normal human version and then his Apothecan version as well. But maybe when he was banished to the Dark Aether, did he continue to become corrupted and contort? And maybe he's no longer the Shadowman. It's a totally different entity. As we are told about the Black Ops 7 storyline, it evolves around a new enemy character. That would suggest someone we've never seen before, and the Shadowman would be an old enemy character, so that wouldn't be a correct description. But if it is just a fragment of the Shadowman who has evolved in the Dark Aether, could that class as a new enemy character that still has the knowledge of the Dark Aether and the old multiverse, and what he wants to do is bring back Richtof and Takeo Nikolai and Dempsey to absorb their Dark Aether essence to restore the multiverse? It's got to be the Shadowman, right? Even going back to the first quotes I showed you, where Panos says to him, I know you don't hate Richtofen.
No, I don't hate him. I don't think you do either.
Well, the Shadowman, probably more than anyone, probably even more than Dr. Monty, knew Richtofen because he was his agent, and he would have a reason to hate him because it was Richtofen, well, kind of Nikolai as well, that ended up destroying the multiverse and getting him banished to the Dark Aether. That would be a very valid reason for the Shadowman to hate him. I think the only thing stopping me from saying this is 100% confirmed is I just can't believe Treyarch would do something like this. We have seen plenty of things return from the old timeline. Because it all got banished to the Dark Aether, we have the Pack-a-Punch machine is back, the Perk machines, wonder weapons such as the Ray Gun Mark II we've just got in Shattered Veil, but those are all inanimate objects. We haven't yet seen a person from the old storyline return. This would be a huge twist. Now that I've said it, I do also like the possibility of this perhaps being Stuhlinger, who was banished to the Dark Aether, and kind of similar to Zykov, how we saw him get trapped in there in the 1940s during World War II, and then over 40 years he contorted, evolved, grew bigger and stronger, and turned into the Forsaken. Why can't that same thing have happened to someone like Stuhlinger? He survived in there, going to any means necessary. He grew more powerful, stronger, and is now trying to bring back the multiverse to free himself. That would also line up with this Shadow Benefactor telling Panos to find his friends referring to Richtof and Takeo Nikolai and Dempsey. To be honest, I don't think it's him though. To me, it's either the Shadowman or some fragment and variant of him. Maybe a combination of him and Dr. Monty. Or maybe it's just someone totally new that we haven't seen yet. It feels like Treyarch are hiding and slowly building up who he is though, because it's someone we've seen before. And all the language and signs point to it being the Shadowman. I won't say 100%. I'll leave it there and say I'd be really interested to see what you guys think about this in the comment section below. So yeah, there we go. Hopefully you've enjoyed the video. Drop a like rating if you have. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel to stay up to date with the latest content, and I will see you in the next video. Until then, goodbye.